So in equestrian sports, you are taught to listen to your trainer no matter what your trainer says, whether you agree or disagree. The trainer's word is full stop what you do every time, no matter what. If that sounds familiar, let me know in the comments because it's definitely something that I see very, very frequently and something I've experienced myself as well. But I actually happen to think that that is backwards, and I think it's a little bit nuanced, and so I hope that this is helpful to you, but I really do think that that's backwards because I think that ultimately riders should be taught to listen to their horse first, and then their own gut instinct second, and their trainer as a trusted advisor. So let's dive into that concept a little bit and let's see how programmed maybe you might be and how we can kind of help to get you thinking for yourself and thinking for your own horse without having to break up with your trainer, because I bet you have a wonderful trainer. That's why you're there. That's why you have them. That's why you're riding with them. But maybe there's some things that we can do to kind of find a nice happy middle ground. Hi, I'm Ruby. I'm a whole horsemanship trainer, and I help horses and their humans just like you to build a deeper bond and better connection so you can find more magic with your horse, as well as to find more meaning in the slog of the day-to-day, because that's really where all that magic comes from anyway. Today we're talking about the kind of like odd cultural thing around horses and trainers where what your trainer says is the definitive kind of end-all be-all. But the fact is that really what that does is it teaches you just to listen to your trainer and not actually to think for yourself. And a lot of times what I see is like these people who are wonderful people and very committed to their horses and very committed as riders, and they're in lessons with the same trainer for years and years, and they're kind of still working on the same stuff, and they don't really seem to progress. And if you're a trainer, let me know if this sounds familiar, because, you know, we might take a good hard look at yourself in this as well, because this is just how the industry operates. But I really think that there's a better way. And I think that that better way is to really teach riders to think for themselves a little bit more. So what happens in these situations where people tend to kind of stagnate and they're not really getting a lot better is that they've kind of become so codependent on their trainer that they don't know when to use an aid or why they're using the aid or how to navigate something on their own. Or even, I even had people that come to ride with me that have been with other trainers, and they first come to me and they're like, so how do I plan a ride by myself? And I'm like, oh, like no one's actually ever like taken a minute to explain to you how long your warm-up should be, how much work you should actually do during that ride, when to quit when it's good, when to push through something that's hard, how long your cool out should be, what kinds of exercises you could do in your cool out to really make use of it instead of just walking around mindlessly. And that's all probably built into your lessons, and you do it every time you take a lesson, 1 or 2 or even 5 days a week, I've heard, but you're not able to go and replicate that on your own because that piece was never actually taught to you. So even though you're doing it every day, you're not able to execute it on your own. And so that, I think, is where the problem is. And, you know, I get it also, like from the perspective of a trainer, I totally am very frequently find myself saying things like outside half halt, inside leg, more leg, slow down, sit deeper, all those little commands that you've probably heard over and over and over again in your own training. But what I realize is that that doesn't actually teach you why we're doing that. And so therefore, you're always going to be dependent on me to tell you when and how to use those aids. And so I think as a trainer, my real job is actually not just to say the aid when it's time to use it, but then also to take a moment, even if it's later, because it's hard to say all of this in the moment when things are happening real time, but even maybe after the exercise or the drill is over, to take a moment and explain to you, like, hey, so do you understand why I had you using that outside rein there? Could you see how when you came around that turn, could you feel how he kind of leaned on your inside leg like a bicycle? And then did you feel how then when we used a little bit more inside leg and a little outside seat bone, how he kind of like righted himself and stayed a little bit more upright? And we can have those conversations so that you, next time you ride by yourself, you can maybe start to feel that as well. And you can really start to kind of listen to your horse and feel what your horse is giving you, and then know what to do about it in that moment. And you're able to actually progress towards your goal and work toward the next one. I also have kind of a funny, like, backwards for the industry perspective on people's goals. So to me, when you come to me with a goal, my goal is to help you execute that goal so that you can fire me and I can work with the next person. Not to say I don't love working with you, I do, trust me, But my goal is to get you what you want from your horse and with your horse together as a team, and to get you working together so that you don't need me. Kind of like Nanny McPhee, if you ever watched that movie, right? Like, when you want me but no longer need me, I must go, right? It's that kind of feeling. And what I think makes the most sense is, like, let's say your goal is to like ride and show second level. Let's get you there. Let's get you riding and showing second level. And then if your goal changes and you're like, wow, I did that, wonderful. Now I'd like to ride third level. You can hire me again and we'll work together again and we'll work to the next goal. Or you could say, you know, that was enough for me. I think I actually really just want to like enjoy my horse and we're just going to go do our own thing for a little while. And when we're ready for the next step, I'll let you know. And like, fantastic, let's do that. I think the primary goal should be to get you in the driver's seat, to get you and your horse communicating and talking to each other, to get you and your horse on the same page, and get the trainer out of that relationship. However, I do think the trainer has a very important role as the wise person who has experience with the thing that you are struggling with, and they have the answer and the keys, and it's their job to teach you the answer and the keys so that you can then fix your own problem. But the trainer doesn't belong in the middle of your relationship between you and your horse. The trainer belongs out here advising you and giving you feedback, and you are the one that really gets to ultimately make those decisions about you and your horse and your training and your program. So what are some things that you can do if you find yourself in a situation like this where you've become so codependent on your trainer that you can't ride or execute your goals without the help of your trainer standing there actually physically telling you every step what aid to put on? First, I would just say start asking more questions. Ask, you know, maybe not in the moment, maybe like after the exercise, like I said, and definitely during your lesson time. Don't bug your trainer with questions outside of the time that you're paying them for. But what would, I think, create the most favor between you and your trainer would be to take a moment to say, hey, when we just did that leg yield over there, why was it that you said more outside rein? Could you help me understand why I needed more outside rein there? Or to say like, hey, what did you think of, you know, you said sit deep when I came around that turn. Was I sitting deeply enough? Or would you like to see me sitting more deeply? Did I execute that the way that I should have? Is there something I could do to do that better? Or come to your lesson with specific things in mind that you'd like to work on. A lot of times I think people show up, like I always ask people, what would you like to work on today? And a lot of times people just stare at me blankly because they're like, wait, that's your job to figure that out. And that's not my job. I'm here to help you to enjoy your horse better. I always have things in my mind. I always know things we can work on. But if you come to me and say, hey, I'd really love to work on my canter transitions today, I'm thrilled because now I don't have to think about what to work on today. And if I have something else that I think would serve you better, I'll let you know. But otherwise, like, yeah, let's work toward your goals. You tell me what you'd like to work on today. That can be really, really helpful for structuring the lesson. And then also, you know, sometimes maybe being deferential if you're like, hey, I would really love to work on my canter transitions today, and your trainer's like, yes, but actually this other thing needs to happen first. Before we can work on your canter transitions, we really need to work on your bend on that circle. And you're like, got it, let's work on the bend on that circle. But now you have a deeper understanding of what comes in what order so that you can have better canter transitions. So the whole idea is to deepen your own understanding of your own training process and your own goals. If that sounds doable to you, like you can just start going to your trainer and asking for more clarity, asking for more explanations in the context of your lessons and what you're working on, I highly recommend checking out also my Magic Moments my Magic Moments playlist, because that's right here on YouTube, and it has really awesome tangible things that you can do by yourself on the weekends that are very empowering, will help you to feel more independent with your horse and to really start to understand your horse more and to start communicating with your horse one-on-one between you and your horse instead of you and your trainer and your horse. And that, I think, is really where you're going to start to find a lot more independence, a lot more confidence, and you're going to start to feel a lot better about your relationship with your horse in general. If you have any other thoughts about this or questions, never hesitate to leave a comment. I always love to answer the comments, sometimes maybe a little too lengthy, but I really find a lot of joy in communicating with you there in that space. And like I said, check out my Magic Moments playlist because I think you'll find a lot of really helpful tools for you there as well. I'll see you in the next video, and make sure to hug your horse for me.